14 years, $500 million. That's $35.71 million for those of you keeping track at home. That's a contract done on April 7th, according to Ken Rosenthal, and now all of the media insider sources. That's a contract that was done with a player who said, I'm not going to negotiate once I report. I'm not going to negotiate once spring training games start. I'm not going to negotiate once the regular season starts. We told you from the beginning it was straight poppycock. Of course, Vladimir Guerrero would accept a contract that was absolutely astounding, off the charts. It's the third biggest contract in the history of baseball. Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Is that the order you would put them in? Dodgers, Ohtani, Mets, Soto, Guerrero, Blue Jays? As you know, I've known Vladimir Guerrero Jr. since the very beginning. Had his father in Montreal. I'm so proud of Vladimir Jr. I'm so happy for Vladimir Sr. I am gushing with pride and excitement for what he was able to accomplish because he took advantage of a situation, and there was not one thing Rogers Communications or Mark Shapiro or Russ Atkins or anyone north of the border could do. You see, the Blue Jays were tired. They were very, very tired of being second fiddle or third fiddle, tired of being the stalking horse, tired of the narrative. No big players will sign with us long term. Everybody's looking to leave Canada. Who can stand going back and forth through customs? Who can stand the currency exchange rate, Canadian dollars, US dollars? Aaron Judge, nope. Shohei Ohtani on a plane to Toronto, nope. Finally, the Blue Jays said, we have no choice here, because Vladimir Guerrero has been asking for the same $500 million with no deferrals from the beginning. Vladimir didn't budge. He just waited and then waited. It's a very interesting way to negotiate. If you have the ability and if you have the intestinal fortitude to just wait for someone to come to you because you know you have them over a barrel, you know that you've got the leverage in a way that there is not one thing that changes the status quo. Not the team going 0-10, not the team going 10-0, not you hitting 500 in your first 8 games or you hitting 0 in your first 8 games. None of that. To the media, to the fans, that may mean something. In the articles, you'll see Toronto, first place in the AL East, second place in the AL East. They'll give you the slash lines for Guerrero for this season like that matters one tinker's damn. This is all about the owner of the Blue Jays saying, I will not walk into another owner's meeting. I will not walk into a board meeting, and I will not for a minute let my thousands of employees think that Toronto is not a first-class city, a first-class destination, a first-class team. Guerrero, drafted, developed. He's only been on one team. This contract, should he serve the entire 14 years, that will be his entire career as a Blue Jay. Hall of Famer? Maybe. Father-son Hall of Famer? We'll see. I think what is interesting about this deal, though, there's so many things given the timing and given, the funny part, side note in negotiation, if you're going to cave, what's the rush? You have to have it in your mind when you are thinking about what your position is. You have to have in your mind what your breaking point is. And if you know that you're going to give the 500 at some point, why do you give it now? What is the benefit? Season ticket holders are already in for the season or not. You're not going to get new attendance now saying, oh, Toronto kept Vladdy for next year. Your team doesn't get better next year. You have the same player on it that you had this year, that you had last year, that you had the year before, that you had in this window where you have not been successful. It's always so painful to pay your own free agents because it doesn't make your team better. It satisfies your fan base for a second, and then they want wins. Can Vladimir be the center of a winning team? It's not like the Blue Jays haven't surrounded him with players during the course of his career. Just think about the reasoning. If you wait till after the season, what exactly is the downside? Vladimir Guerrero wins the MVP, hits 50 home runs, drives in 150 runs. The Blue Jays win the World Series. Let's just pretend that happens. What's the demand by Guerrero? What's the open market to get a player like that? More than 500 million without deferrals over 14 years? You think he gets to 600 million? Let's just pretend that he gets to 600 million. He's not going to get to Ohtani's 700 million over 14, even though it's over 14 without any deferrals. It's not going to happen. So you evaluate what your risk is. Let's say your risk, there's a 35.71 annual average value. If he wins the MVP, the team wins the World Series. Are you risking $5 million a year over 14 years? Are you risking $90 million? So we'd have an average of $40 million per year for 14 years. Okay, that would be the most. What are the odds that that's actually going to happen? As an owner and a negotiator or a president or someone who's in charge of figuring out salaries, you have to weigh these things. Some teams use PR as a far bigger piece of the pie than I ever did. When it came to Giancarlo Stanton, PR was a big piece of the pie, but also just having Giancarlo anchor our team forever. First-time Hall of Famer as a Marlin, trying to win more than 81 games for the first time with Giancarlo Stanton, trying to figure out how to win with players who we had who were good players, having no idea what tragedy would befall the team or what would happen with change of ownership. So there are reasons that you allow PR to have strategy. I'm not saying Toronto didn't have the reason, but I'm saying their reason was simply the fact that they felt like bridesmaids. What happens when you feel like a bridesmaid and you want to be a bride? You tend to settle. You tend to overpay. You tend to not wait for the love. You make the love. You try to convince yourself that what you're doing is right. The Blue Jays are a really good front office who have put together really good teams that there's been something missing. Now you're going at it with the same player, and you have put yourself in bed with this player, a great player, might I add, but you are now with him for the next 14 years. You still have a big free agent coming in Bo Bichette. And something that occurred to me during the night as I was pondering this. Do players say to themselves, hey, you signed Vlad, now it's my turn? Yes, they do. That's not how front offices think. They don't say, all right, we took care of Vlad Guerrero, now let's give Bichette whatever he wants. You make choices. I don't think for a minute that Bo Bichette will get what he wants. When you look at the makeup of a team, if you bring Bo Bichette back at a certain number, to me, you are basically saying that our team has been good enough with these two people as the core, Guerrero and Bichette. And that's not been the case. So to me, a Guerrero signing is even a bigger indicator that Bichette will walk, no matter what happens during the course of this season.